Hello and welcome to our webinar, Server Template Deep Dive, Cloud Server Automation Made Easy. While we wait for a couple more people to join us, we're going to go ahead and get started with a few polls. We have a couple questions we'd like to ask and learn some things from you. So let's go ahead and get started with that. First question, are you using cloud infrastructure today, such as Amazon EC2 or Rackspace? So if you're definitely on the cloud and you have several applications in production, you can go ahead and choose that first one, or choose the option that is most applicable to you. So the poll's in progress, just collecting a few more answers, and we'll push the results out to you in a second. So okay, cool, there's a good distribution of people in the audience, with most of you in production today, and then several beginning to explore, or some haven't even started that process yet. That's very interesting. Next question. We're curious if you, and this is probably more relevant if you are actually already in the cloud or if you've done something in the cloud, but we're curious if you've created a virtual machine image before, so something like an Amazon machine image or anything like that. So same thing here, yes, with one or more in production, or maybe something else is the right answer for you. Results are in. Oh, cool, very interesting. A lot of you do have experience with machine images. Very good. Final question, and then we'll get started. Have you created a server template with RightScale? So same thing here, yes, one or more in production. Maybe you're just getting started or learning, or no, you haven't done that yet, and that is why you are here today. And as I suspected, no, most of you have not actually done a server template before, and it just so happens that that is what we're going to be talking about for the next hour. So perfect. Let's go ahead and get started. I would like to introduce you to our panel today. I have here with me Daryl Eaton. He's our Director of Product Management. I also have Chris Horn, who's our Director of Product Marketing and a RightScale product expert. We're also lucky to have a customer on this call with us today. His name is Sanket Nair. He is Senior Director Operations at Coupa.com. And one other cool thing I want to point out, we will answer your questions at any time throughout the course of this webinar. And we have our account manager, Chris Williams, on the line to take those questions and answer them as this webinar goes on. So just make sure that you make good use of the GoToWebinar questions pane to submit those questions. And then also if there's any that are more broadly applicable, we will select those and answer those live on the air. Maybe Daryl, Chris, or Sanket can address those. So let's go ahead and get started with Chris.
Great, thank you, Sarah. So in today's webinar, we're going to provide you with a brief introduction to RightScale and then quickly go deep on the topic of server templates. And Sanket of Coupa is going to talk to us about how they are leveraging server templates in their environment. And then Daryl is going to resume with how to get started with server templates, applying some best practices, and then what are some of the existing assets that can be leveraged to accelerate deployments, such as assets in the server template library. For those of you who don't know RightScale, we've been helping customers manage their cloud deployments for about 4 years now. Today we have more than 30,000 users, and we're coming up on 2 million servers launched in the cloud. RightScale is available on demand, so you don't need to purchase any software in advance, and we have a very experienced professional services team that's ready to help you architect and deploy your applications to cloud infrastructure. Our customers vary in size and industry, from multinational media, insurance, and pharmaceutical companies to online gaming and Web 2.0 startups. RightScale has managed some of the largest scaling events in the cloud to date, such as Animoto's ramping up over 4,000 servers within just a couple of days at the launch of their service. And other customers regularly launch hundreds of servers at a time and are managing many thousands of servers with just a few sysadmins, which begs the question, how are they doing that?
Well, Chris, let me see if I can answer that question.
Thank you.
All right. So it looks like many of you said that you have not used server templates before, so you are in the right place. So let me get started here. Lots of you also said that you have made images or AMIs before. Many of you perhaps have them in production, which is great. So what I'd like to do is just start out with a very high-level analogy to give you a sense of how we view server templates. So you can think of virtual machine images or AMIs or other types of images that you might have to work with on clouds as a CD. The process to create them takes a while. You get everything just right, and you essentially burn it to disk and upload that disk to the cloud. If anything is broken, it's hard to find. You have to go into the OS. You have to change some configuration stuff. It's hard to rebundle and get that CD back up there and go through the whole development lifecycle. You can't diff them like you can with normal code. So it's a pretty opaque block, and every time you burn that disk, it's not going to move from that point. Server templates, on the other hand, I would liken more to a playlist that you might have on your iPod or your iPhone. So for example, you write a bunch of scripts that you would normally write to set up your machine, and you put them in the order that you would run them. And if that order is not right, well, you simply move it around. Or if one of the scripts is not right, you delete it, add a new one. And so you get it just right, so that the whole playlist makes a nice listening experience. And if you ever need to change anything, you just go into the software and change it. I want to point out that server templates are unique to RightScale. And it's one of the ways that we've helped many customers achieve some of the things that Chris had mentioned. It does make it a lot easier to manage your configurations in a more flexible, modular way that you can version, you can diff between versions, you can easily share it with other people in your company, and we'll walk through a lot of those values through this presentation. So let me walk you through a typical environment where you're working with images. So for example, let's say you have a production environment. You might have a couple databases that you've created images for. You've got some web servers, perhaps a content management system. You have your application servers. Maybe here you're using ASP. It's on a different image on Windows. You also might have some internal servers that you're using for your company, perhaps SharePoint. So you're creating image after image after image that you need to maintain. We've heard many of our customers say, you know what, once it gets past about 40 images, I just can't keep track of everything anymore, and it becomes too much to maintain. So we say don't do that. The way that we suggest you go to the cloud is in a new paradigm, which takes advantage of the cloud. Your images, you want to be very basic, very few, pretty much just with the OS. We publish a variety of images right now for open source Linux, CentOS, Ubuntu, as well as Windows 2003, and there's a typo there, Windows 2008. Soon we hope to be starting to offer some enterprise Linux images. So you come and you get these pre-built images. You don't have to deal with them. We want you to work above that in the configuration area, in the variable area. So server templates allow you to define a set of configuration directives that will install and configure software on the fly on top of that base image. And it's in a much more flexible, much easier environment than working with the bare operating system. Let me walk you a little bit deeper into the anatomy of a server template. Again, I mentioned you have the base image. On top of that image, you start to put on scripts, what we call write scripts. You can write these scripts in a variety of languages. Most people use Bash. If you're on Windows, you can use PowerShell. You can also use Chef, Python, Ruby. People have figured out a variety of ways to even get some obscure languages in there. So essentially, we execute this on the machine for you, and we boot it in the order that you specify. You can also have operational scripts where they don't get run at boot, but perhaps these are scripts that you might run during the normal operations of a server. Maybe you're encapsulating some of the scripts that you might run as part of a run book that you have. If you look on the right, I have the MySQL template as an example. We bring up a base image, Ubuntu, CentOS, 64-bit, larger. And we first install monitoring, get all the monitors set up. Then we'll install MySQL Server, configure and tune it for the instance size that you're on. We restore the last backup if there is any. We set up all the DNS records, any elastic IPs that your app servers might need, of course start all the services. We do this all on the fly based on the scripts that are on the template. While you're running the database, you might have to take a one-off backup, so you would just go into our dashboard and press play on the perform backup script. Or maybe you brought this database up to be a slave of another master, and so you'll go ahead and run the initialize slave script, punch in the information for the master, and we'll reconfigure it as a slave in the environment. So all this again operates on top of the image level. There's nothing in the image, and it's all very flexible.
So Daryl, this would be a good point for a question that's come in. How do server templates enable multi-cloud support?
Sure. So I will get into that when I go into the demo, but just very briefly, the images that you have underneath the server template can be in any region on Amazon or on multiple clouds. And the idea is that you'll have a similar image on each cloud that you're writing your scripts for. So I'll point that out in the demo. That's a good question.
Thank you.
What do server templates help me do? One of the key distinctions that I'd like to make about server templates versus other things like image or perhaps other configuration technology that's out there is that server templates are cloud aware. They understand properties about the instances that are on the cloud. So for example, the image, instance type, SSH keys that you might want to have on boot, security groups that you might want to apply. And the scripts and the whole methodology, the whole architecture allows you to affect other resources on the clouds. So based on some monitoring that you're doing, if the app servers get too overloaded, you can spin up more app servers and connect them to the database. As an app server, I can reach out to a proxy and say, hey, connect to me, I'm a new app server. So the server templates are very cloud aware, and this is how we achieve the automation for the scaling. This is how we can achieve some of the automation that's put in place where just a few sysadmins can manage thousands of servers. Another thing they help you do, and I'll walk you through this in the demo, is you can record everything that you do to set up a server. So instead of going into a server, running a bunch of commands, setting it up, and then forgetting about it, you want to encapsulate all this in the scripts so that you can do it in a repeatable manner. And I'll walk you through this in the demo. You can extract variable configuration information. We call these inputs. So rather than bake any information like IPs or DNS names or anything like that into your images, you want to keep this all out of the images as much as possible. And that way, when you bring up a server, you can configure it just for what you need at that point. You can define custom monitors and alerts beyond the ones that we make available on our templates. If you have a particular thing that you need to monitor in your application, you can have that sent back to the RightScale platform, view it in the dashboard, and even if even trip escalations off of it. So if you need to spin up more app servers, for example. Server templates are versionable. So as you modify them, as you add your best practices, you can keep revisions, and you can see the differences between revisions. So that at any point, if something doesn't work, you can always go back to a previous revision. ServerTemplates lets you share best practices within your organization. So you might have a bunch of developers on the cloud, and if you all work on just a few server templates together, you can see who's making what changes, and you can all maintain one common best practice set. Finally, we can share server templates with the world, and Chris is going to talk about that a little bit later. Incorporating best practices from others is also key. We have a huge library of server templates and write scripts, both that we've published, as well as our partners and customers have published. And one key thing to point out, which you definitely cannot do with images, is receive updates. So for example, if you look below, you'll see there's a little yellow hover on that MySQL template. saying that there's an update available in the library. We've made a bug fix, and you can easily take that. If you've modified your own template in your own account, you can easily pull that bug fix in without having to go through a whole rebuild of an image. You could even do it on a running server. So those are some of the key items, and with that, I'll actually turn it over to Sanket, who's going to tell you how they use server templates at Coupa. Sanket, just want to make sure you unmute yourself before you start talking.
Hello everyone. Sanket Naik, and I'm the Senior Director of Operations at Coupa Software. Coupa empowers companies to spend smarter and save money with an innovative, fast to adopt, easy to use, and cost-effective cloud-based spend management solution. Coupa's solution is completely hosted on the Amazon cloud, and we use RightScale to manage, deploy, and scale our infrastructure. As most of you on the call are aware, Amazon continues to provide great innovation in cloud hosting and continues to drive down costs, making computing a true utility. It provides a rich API, and it eases provisioning for scaling up and scaling down. But like most of the people on the call, Coupa is not in the operations business. We are in the spend management business. What RightScale allows us to do is to grow and scale our services with our rapidly growing customer base without proportionally growing our operations staff. So it kind of allows us to have a laser focus on our core business and outsource and automate the system administration tasks. And ServerTemplates are a key component of achieving our service goals. They allow us to build a platform as a service on top of the Amazon cloud. Our software platform is Ruby on Rails, and we started on Ruby on Rails 3 years before it was officially anointed as the language of Cloud 2.0. The way we use RightScale is that we import the Rails, a bunch of Rails templates for front-ends and app server from the RightScale library, and we also use the MySQL EBS templates. We take this template, add some custom write scripts, and we also customize some of the inputs specific to our environment. So we can actually deploy our application from scratch on the Amazon cloud in a matter of hours. One of the best practices that we use is we try to minimize customization of the server templates from RightScale, and we try to limit it to the inputs so that whenever RightScale comes out with upgrades for their server templates like they did last week, we can take advantage of these upgrades without adding too much risk. We use monitoring and alerting that was just talked about to page out our on-call team based on different triggers. We use the collective-based monitoring graphs to rapidly triage and troubleshoot when there are issues. We also use the RightScale array to scale out and scale down automatically based on a demand. One of the great advantages of ServerTemplates is that we can reuse the same infrastructure configuration with very minor modifications like instance types, DNS records, in all stages of our software development lifecycle, from development to QA to staging to production. And we also, you can see that there's a screenshot on the slide which shows how we are reusing the same MySQL EBS server template across all our infrastructure from development to production. We also use the revision control that was talked about so that we can manage risk while we are making changes on the server template while we are rolling them out. One of the advantages of server templates is that it allows us to benefit from RightScale's community of customers and partners who are making changes to these server templates, providing feedback, or sending in bug fixes. So that's another great advantage of server templates, that you can benefit from the community. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My email address is on the slide, or you can bring up any questions in the Q&A at the end of the call.
Sanket, thank you very, very much. I want to reiterate one thing that he mentioned, which is around reusing the components in the life cycle. So one key value that our customers find is that they'll create their production environment with all their templates, write scripts, so that they have their load balancers, web servers, API servers, databases, and then they need to start using it at various stages in their life cycle. So they'll pull the scripts from maybe the app server templates and the API servers, and they'll make a combined template where they can use in their staging environment. They might not need as many machines. Same thing as we go down to test. Maybe you combine the web servers and the app servers on just one template, just for testing. You don't need to have as many machines. Finally, a developer might just have one machine that they're working on. But the beauty is that all the scripts have come from production scripts, so that they are working on pretty much an identical environment that they will hit once the code hits production. And this is actually what we do here in RightScale. We have a production environment with a very large number of servers, and we take all the scripts that are off the key templates and put them down into developer all-in-one, which does take a while to spin up, but once it's up, the developers have a really good, essentially a copy of the production environment that they're working on to develop. So you might say, oh, this sounds great. A lot of you are hearing about ServerTemplates for the first time. You might wonder how to get started. So there's two options, both of which I'll walk through in the demo. You can start from scratch and then start adding write scripts, either ones from yourself or that you might find in the library. So that's the other option. You can search for the library, see who's published, get stuff from our partners, get stuff from us, either use them out of the box or just start to understand the scripts and use them in your own environment. So with that, I'm going to pull over a browser here. So I'm in the RightScale dashboard now, creating a new server template. And I'm going to do this to walk you through the question that Chris asked, as well as give you a little bit of overview of the dashboard. So Chris, you asked a question earlier about, how do you make a template multi-cloud? One of the key things that's underneath a template is something that we call a multi-cloud image. So I'm going to go ahead and select one of the pre-made ones that we offer right now. So I'll take a CentOS 5.4 and click on Save, and I'll show you a little bit about how that works. So once this new server template comes up, I'll show you a little bit about what's behind a server template. First of all, you can see what clouds this server template's enabled for, and that is because of the multi-cloud image. So here, our image actually points to 4 different images, one in each region of Amazon. So no matter where you spin this up, it's going to pick the correct image. If you want to start going across clouds, then you would have a multi-cloud image which has perhaps the regions that you want on Amazon, and then the image that is a similar image that you have on your private cloud. So that's how the multi-cloud works. Next, you'll add all your scripts in this section. So boot scripts, operational scripts, decommission scripts are scripts that get run when you shut down the instance. And again, you can see some of the other components of the template, like predefined alerts and any variable information, which you'll start to see when I actually create a server template for you. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to the library. And what I would suggest most people start from is a base server template. And here we have a server template that has support for Ubuntu, CentOS, both 32-bit and 64-bit versions, which includes our basic monitoring, which pulls all the monitoring to our servers, as well as the log, syslog service. So I'll go ahead and import this. And you can see on this particular template, we actually have 4 multi-cloud images. So we have CentOS for both i386 and 64, so you can use from smaller instances to larger instance types. We also have Ubuntu. All the scripts that are on this template work for any of those systems. So here you can see we're setting up the monitoring, we're setting up the remote logging to bring back the logs to RightScale. On this, we've already actually predefined a bunch of alerts. So if the CPU gets too busy, if you're running low on disk space, you'll get emails and escalations for these alerts. And of course, you can add more. Now you start to see some of the inputs. So these are some variable information that is passed to the machine on boot, and I'll go into that a little more in a second. So I'm going to clone this template to create my own. Change the name. And once I change the name, I need to turn this server into, actually I'm going to make this a web server. So before I go ahead and write the Apache install myself, I'm just going to check again in the library if there's anything out there. And sure enough, we do have a script to install Apache. It works on both Ubuntu and CentOS. I'm going to go ahead and import this. We've also already done some configuration on tuning this for high traffic servers for you. You can kind of look through the script, see what it does. You'll notice that perhaps that the HTML is set up in mount www.html. After perusing the script, you decide, yep, that works for me. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to my server template. And that comes in here. Again, you can order your boot scripts however needs to be ordered for your installation and configuration routine. And now I have what should spin up a web server. Now I'm going to create a new script to install my HTML. And typically what I recommend is, this is where you start to record your best practices. So let's say you've logged into the machine that's spun up on this base template. And you go to mount www. And you see, yep, there's everything that I'm going to want to do. Nothing in the HTML directory. So I might start to either edit the, create this, but maybe the way that I can do this in a more automated fashion is I'll echo something out to index.html. So first, I have actually the server running on this template, which has those 5 scripts. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that up. And you'll see here, it's just got the regular Apache. There's nothing in the index right now. I go back to here, go this out. It's not found. Yeah, let's just take. I didn't backslash that. Good point. And I reload this, you'll see that that's there. And so what I would start doing is taking these commands, copying them from the shell, and start putting them into a write script. So let's go ahead and create a new write script. And without creating a bunch of commands, which would take all day, I'm going to go ahead and paste this in. So first you'll see that I'm creating a bash script, and I'm starting to echo these things out that I want into the index.html. And I'm also starting to add variable information. So you see here, this is a variable which is used in the bash script, and we call this an input. I'm going to identify the inputs, and you can see the random number. You can define particular types of responses that you want for inputs if you need to, but I'm just going to leave this wide open. And I'm going to call this install webinar htdocs. Finally, you can add any system packages like SunJDK or whatever you need to for your scripts. So I create that write script, and the next thing I want to do is I'm going to add it to the template. So I'm actually going to walk over here to the server that I have running, and I'm going to add it to the running servers template. Again, this is an identical copy of the template that I just created. I'm going to add this as an operational script. To the template, I'm going to go back to the server, and you'll notice that this script is now on the server. Notice how I haven't touched the image, I haven't done anything with the underlying stuff. I've added a script to a running server, and now it appears here as a script that I can run. So again, you saw here, there's the hello world. I'm going to go ahead and run this. It's going to ask me for that variable information, a random number, 6. Type that in, hit continue. And what RightScale is going to do now is it's going to reach out to that server, and it's going to execute that particular script. That script will also download any attachments on the script, so you can have files like tar files or anything you want to install attached to the script. So that's all downloaded to the instance, and then it will go ahead and run this. So it's probably already run it. I'm going to hit refresh here, and you see that 6 is in the title, and there's Hello Cloud. And then here we've completed the install. And if I look at the details, I can see that htdocs installed successfully when it was run. I can look at the audit entries here. I can see that that script ran, who ran it, so you have a full record of everything that's happening to the server. And if I look back at that particular script, to point out one more thing, htdocs installed successfully was just a message that I echoed out, and I exited with 0, so that was successful. So now that that all works, looks good to me, I want to commit this template and say everything works. If I ever want to get back to it, I can. It's going to commit that script that I added to it. And now I have revision 2 that I can always go back to with a working configuration. And that is essentially how you can get started with server templates. We have a lot of information on our support portal at support.rightscale.com to help you get started as well.
So Daryl, a question that's come in, how long does it typically take to get ramped up on server template architecture?
Well, you know, maybe one thing to point out is that kind of what I mentioned around, you know, just recording what you already do. So if you can see how quickly I walk through that there, you know, that's about how long it would take you to import a base server template. Just have it there. And then as you start to configure your machine, you can copy, paste, learn a little bit about inputs. It'll take you 10 minutes to read on the support portal. And then you should be running your first scripts against servers. So we designed this to essentially mimic what sysadmins already do. And so if you're already creating this sort of automated scripting, then it shouldn't take you much time at all to get started.
Cool. Another question that came in is where specifically do you use server arrays within deployments? Is it like in the database or the application or web tier?
Well, we've had customers use them for pretty much everything. Most commonly it's used for the app tier. So your app servers will start to get overloaded, and they will say, hey, we want more friends. We want more people who can help us out. And they'll start calling back to us, and after a predefined threshold that you define is reached, we'll spin up more. And again, since you saw that we can configure everything on the fly, it'll be configured to automatically connect to the database that you've put in the inputs, and you're off to the races, and that's how it works. But I've also seen customers who will put databases in the arrays, and so you have a single database template, which is designed in a sharded manner, where maybe outside the array there's a master database which has all the pointers into to account to which database. And then so when you want more databases, you simply go and increase the maximum number in the array, and then go add that new database to your master pointer database.
Nice. Here's another one. What clouds beyond the multiple AWS clouds do you currently support?
Okay, so we support cloud.com for private clouds, and we support Eucalyptus for private clouds as well. And then we're just about to enter sort of a more expanded early access program for Rackspace.
Okay, thanks. And here's another one. Can you just as easily apply scripts across multiple servers at once, or, for example, all servers within an array?
Just easily apply scripts across multiple. Oh, yes. So we have pretty powerful tools to help you run scripts on multiple servers. So you could add that script. Actually, you don't even need to add it to a template. You can go to a deployment, and we have an option where you can run any script. And so any script that you have in your account, you can run on machines in your deployment. You can even filter those machines based on the server template, so you can say, I only want to run this script on all my app servers. And we'll push out the script to all your app servers, and we'll run it on all your app servers, and you'll see the events, whether they all succeeded or if any of them failed on the events task on the left side here. Cool. Great, so we'll keep moving. One thing that I showed in the demo but want to reiterate is around how you can mix and match components. So we have a lot of components out in our library, different operating systems, different languages for app servers, PHP, Ruby, Tomcat, .NET. We have templates for different databases. Again, so if your environment uses, let's say, MySQL and Tomcat, go ahead and match those components in deployment and get running. We also have different types of load balancers, web servers. Another key thing to point out too is that you can mix and match scripting languages even on the template. So for example, in Windows, you can have both PowerShell scripts and Chef scripts on the same template.
So here's another question that came in. Is Puppet an option in place of Chef?
So Puppet is not fully integrated like Chef is in terms of adding them as write scripts, but Puppet Labs has published some server templates in our library that do work with the inputs. So you can stand up a Puppet master and have the clients to Puppet work off of the inputs. So yeah, you can check that template out in the library.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, so I'll move on. Some key best practices as you're starting to use server templates that most people realize after a while, after using them, just to give these to you up front, so you'll be successful right off the bat. You always want to add new scripts rather than modifying existing scripts. So for example, I could have added the Apache script that I imported to put down my HTML docs in the directory. But instead I added an additional script to do that. And the reason why I do that is because if RightScale updates that Apache script, you'll actually see that update notification show up in your dashboard. And you'll be able to pull in that updated script into your template without affecting anything else or your particular configuration. The next thing to point out is that you want to design idempotent systems. And what this means, if you look at the script that I put in, notice the first line has a single caret. So no matter what, I'm always going to overwrite that file on the first time. And essentially, someone could run the script over and over again, and it's going to be fine. It's not going to destroy. If I were to use an append, then I would have had this funny appended HTML if I ran the script over and over again. So you want to design your scripts so that if the script is run twice, it doesn't destroy what you're trying to set up. Same thing around processes. If someone clicks, start Apache or start, web server, you want to kill it first and then start it again because you have to remember that they might just be clicking on this button in the interface. The message that you saw that I printed out, make sure you litter your scripts with messages both when they succeed and when they fail. That way you'll have a full audit trail, and we can tell you when a server did not get successfully set up. And again, leverage our library. Learn from others. It's a great way to get started. Peruse other templates in the library. We've done a lot of the dirty work already. So one question that we receive a lot is, what if you've already created an AMI? So some of you, a lot of you mentioned that you haven't used server templates, but you have already had, do already have AMIs in production. It's not a problem. We've designed installers for our right link agent which is the agent that we have baked into any of our write images that you use. And we have it for both Linux and for Windows. So you can download these RPMs or Debian packages and install them, or on Windows you can download our installer and install RightLink. After you're done, you simply rebundle, tell us that this supports RightScale, and after that you can start using the full machinery, including monitoring, adding scripts, all the automation. It'll all be there for you. So I encourage you to check this out. And with that, I will turn it over to Chris, who will tell us more about what we have in the library.
Thank you, Daryl. So the library is effectively our asset repository for server templates, write scripts, multi-cloud images, and macros that will automate the rollout of a full deployment of multiple servers operating together. Public templates are available here. They can be published for access by anyone in the world. They're searchable, browsable. They can be imported into your environment, and you can leverage the full server template stack and extend it. Or you could similarly just pull write scripts that you want to take advantage of and use them within your own deployments. Similarly, all of the same architecture behind this can be leveraged within your organization to create templates that you share within teams to increase reuse and consistency across server builds. And then similarly, ISV partners are publishing many of their software stacks within the server template library that can be accessible both with free public versions as well as paid template versions that can be later monetized. So I encourage you to check out the server template library to see what's available in there to leverage. I'd like to at this time announce the ServerTemplate Showdown is being reinvigorated for Q1. We last ran this in Q4 just before our last RightScale user conference, and over the course of about a month we had several dozen great server templates that were submitted, so we're very appreciative of the community for sharing their work in that respect. Two of the examples that in this case, one with an iPad as the result, was an Open LDAP directory server by Mentor Solutions and a web acceleration stack to create your own content delivery network to enable the deploying CDNs globally and with load balancing. So this next ServerTemplate Showdown will run over the course of Q1. More details will follow, but where you have assets that might be leverageable by others that are deploying applications to the cloud, please consider cleaning those up and sharing them with your fellow cloud adopters. So just as a quick, why publish server templates? From an organizational perspective, you're driving best practice within the organization. Many organizations are starting to take that a step further, where they're looking to automate the delivery of self-service IT stacks for different departments, while centralizing the control and quality of those stacks, and then being able to monitor and meter the usage. Lilly, for example, is a customer that's pursuing that self-service IT strategy. For ISV partners, the cloud is a great way to SaaSify your product and enable simple distribution for customers to consume your software stacks in the cloud. So maintains portability of your software stack across multiple cloud infrastructure providers while increasing exposure for your software product. So it makes a lot of sense for ISV partners to participate in that. And then from a community development perspective, publishing your software in the cloud drives awareness for your solutions. Again, it's cross-cloud portable, allows you to incorporate best practices from others in that open source capacity, kind of the you take a penny, leave a penny metaphor. So lots of great reasons to participate in that. Stepping back to what are the actual tangible results of leveraging server templates in your deployment, we commissioned a study by a third party in 2010 to work with our customers over a 6-month period to assess what were the harder to quantify soft benefits of leveraging RightScale managed cloud versus just cloud consoles and cloud APIs by themselves, to try to deduce what's the real impact of this server template and deployment automation architecture. And what we found, you can see here, that the architecture serves as a great accelerator for initial deployments. effectively by delivering cloud-ready servers and fully automated deployment stacks where the servers are aware of the role they play and auto-configure themselves on boot. That in and of itself, being able to clone one of those stacks or full deployments and then configure them with the additional packages you need for your purposes, that dramatically accelerates the on-ramp time to migrating applications to the cloud. Customers are starting off with a cloud-savvy architecture that they can leverage, and there's no need to unnecessarily reinvent the wheel in that respect. So some of the savings that we've seen, were reported between 67 and 85% savings in terms of time to market and level of effort. Moving on to ongoing maintenance, dramatic reductions in level of effort to maintain the solutions over time were reported, and the range there came back from 50 to 90% efficiency gains. The primary drivers for that were, well, first off, customers are no longer managing static images where if you make a change to it, you need to go rebundle that and republish it to be able to leverage it. By using ServerTemplates, they've effectively sidestepped that maintenance headache. Secondly, just the basic reuse that we've talked about. By starting with a best practices foundation and then tweaking it and tuning it to suit your application's needs, and then leveraging that over time, you're increasing your own reuse and dramatically lowering your ongoing maintenance costs for those server stacks. Another item that readily comes to mind is troubleshooting in the cloud becomes much simpler in an environment with server template automation. 80 to 90% of problems with servers typically tend to be related to configuration on the box or hardware. So the first obvious thing to do in an automated cloud environment is to scuttle that server and start another one and see if that resolves the problem. And only at that point, where you have a problem repeating across multiple instances, is it worth doing the due diligence to find out what was the problem with the box so that you can resolve it and make sure it doesn't recur in the future. So when you take away the burden of managing static images and their proliferation, you enable a simple deployment model for reuse of assets, and you simplify your troubleshooting, you can see where a lot of sysadmin time gets saved. Let's move on to the next slide. As a summary, server templates are effectively cloud-ready servers. They provide a full automation environment to dynamically configure servers in context as they're booting, as we saw in Daryl's demo. They provide a platform for agility and reuse, as I mentioned with the Lilly example, where they're leveraging cloud and the server template architecture to implement IT self-service across their departments. So researchers can get a stack provisioned for them for research and analysis purposes in 30 minutes rather than 30 days. From a maintenance perspective, we heard from Coupa today about how the environment simplifies lifecycle management, and similarly, several of our customers at our last user conference spoke about how much easier it is to apply patches to their entire data center in a matter of hours versus days. And then from a transparency and control perspective, they allow you to inspect, clone, and customize exactly what the servers are going to be doing. And then from a control perspective, audit who did what to which system and when. And we persist that data beyond the server itself's temporary lifespan in the cloud. When you otherwise shut down a server in the cloud, it was ephemeral, and that instance is gone. But in the RightScale environment, we're persisting all of that audit history, so it actually gives the servers a history that they otherwise wouldn't have in a cloud environment. So the end game, it's all about simplifying management, reducing complexity of the environment, and being able to architect solutions that are scalable and fault tolerant from the scratch. And that's how we work to enable sysadmins to manage thousands of servers at a time.
Thank you, Chris. And at this point, we have a bunch of questions coming in, so I'm going to take these last few minutes to try to answer as many as I can. So a couple that are kind of related, which I'll hit up first. Can you share templates across multiple zones? And how does RS scale up, down instances for load? And how do you distribute IP addresses, info to nodes in the cluster? So for that first one, can you share templates across multiple zones? The templates actually are not zone specific. So unlike an image, which you do upload to maybe a particular cloud, templates are can be published on multiple regions. When you start up a server, we ask you, do you want to, which zone do you want to spin it up in? And you can specify that as defaults on the server information. So no, templates are not specific to zones. You can spin them up on any zone that you want. How does RightScale up-down instances for load, and how do you distribute IP addresses, info to nodes in the cluster? So let me take you to the deployment here. That's on top of this. So deployments aggregate all the inputs from all the server templates that are beneath them. So to answer that question, for example, let's say you have a database that comes up on a certain DNS or a certain IP, and that DNS is, database.mycompany.com. So for inputs here, you would have the inputs for database DNS for all the app servers that are in your deployment and in your array that might autoscale. And so you set that in one place. So you would set database.mycompany.com. And as all those app servers spin up either by you manually or by the arrays, they will use that predefined information. So I can edit deployment-wide variables here. So that's a good question. I had another question here. Why would you put the HTML on a mount point if there is no real, reliable NFS file system storage with AWS and RS? So I think I'll answer this question in two ways. So first, we do offer an NFS server template if you do want to use it, but we actually recommend that you put the either your code out on S3 or in the attachment on the server template and put it down on each instance that spins up. That way you don't have to rely on NFS. You don't have to have network traffic going across just to serve up the web pages. AWS has, and also some other the private clouds have volumes that you can attach to machines. And so on some of our more complex templates like the MySQL Manager, we actually do mount AWS EBS volumes, a few of them according to best practices for MySQL for different parts of the database. And we can use that to regularly snapshot the database and do very quick restores. So we would mount those for the database, and you can see that in the MySQL. Another question. I see lots of RS scripts that install website code based on pulling from version control. That works for evaluated code, PHP, Ruby, etc. What's the best practice for installing a Java WAR file or compiled C executable? Again, I would recommend going out to the library here and seeing how people do it. We have a Tomcat, which the WAR file you can put as an attachment on one of the scripts, and it will download the WAR file, and then you can use that to put in the right place. You can also see that on the Jasper server template, I know that they have their WAR file attached to an installed Jasper script. And while I'm bringing that up, answering another question. Can templates be used to configure inside the firewall servers? So perhaps this is a question, maybe you're bringing up a private cloud and all these machines are inside the firewall. You might, at this point, so a little bit around security on the private clouds, we only need to talk to your cloud controller on an inbound basis. All the instances with RightLink call out to RightScale. So you're only ever opening the ports that you want to open to your instances to the outside world. Everything that we do happens through RightLink, which always calls out. So yes, you can use templates to configure inside the firewall servers, even in private cloud or even in Amazon's VPC beta. So let's see, I'll just to show you an example of the WAR file here. Jasper server WAR file install. So here you see they have an attachment. They have a few attachments. They have some installers for iReport, and they have a WAR file for Jasper server. And then the particular script puts them all in the right place. and unpacks them. So let's see if I can unpacks. Here's the WinInstaller sample app. Not seeing it right off the bat, but you can definitely look through here and through our Tomcat server to see how this happens. If you needed to script an install of, say, MySQL, does it pull the installer across your internet connection, or installers pre-positioned someplace in the cloud provider? So we actually mirror the repositories of CentOS and Ubuntu, and we actually keep a copy of that mirror every day. So one important concept about our server templates is you can freeze the date of that software repository. So every time it's pulling down, a package, it's pulling it from our mirrors. And if you want the server templates to make sure it always comes up and not get the latest package, you can freeze the repository date. So it'll pull up that date package for whichever, when you committed the revision. And this is how, people can guarantee that when they're auto-scaling, they're not going to have some server come up, get a new package that they didn't expect, which strands their server. They're going to get the package that they expected. So this is all local to the cloud. We maintain mirrors in all the different regions. You won't get charged for bandwidth, things like that. So do you have?
Yeah, so here's a question. Can developer accounts publish server templates to the community?
Absolutely. So we have many developers who have published templates already, and we have a pretty easy assistant to walk you through the whole thing. And we encourage you to do that, and especially as a part of the upcoming ServerTemplate Showdown, so you have a chance to win an iPad.
Excellent. And does RightScale have scripts for checking if an acquired IP or elastic IP have been blacklisted from RBLs?
That is a good question. I would probably have to search the library myself. I don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay. And how can I apply a script to a local development environment? Can the scripts be exported?
So they are scripts just like you would run anywhere. So what our developers typically do is, they can define the environment variables in the environment where they're running the scripts, and the bash scripts pull them in just as they were environment variables, since it's just dollar, all caps. So yes, you can export them, define the environment variables for the inputs that are described in the the scripts, and go from there.
Okay. And where can I find more information about how the monitoring works? Is it possible to implement application-specific monitoring?
Sure. So we have tons of information. Actually, I'll point this out here in terms of getting started. So we have a whole support portal with a lot of information on RightScale and about best practices on clouds. You can go here to get started with server templates, our methodologies. So is it possible to implement application-specific monitoring? Yes. For both Linux and for Windows, we allow you to define custom monitoring packages. So you can monitor whatever you want and send that back to RightScale. We will graph it and we'll show it in your dashboard.
Thank you. Sanket, question for you. How do RightScale server templates help to design for high availability?
Oh, that's a great question, Chris. So RightScale provides a lot of features and functionality within their base server templates that we can leverage, that we can use to leverage Amazon's features for reliability. For example, the MySQL EBS template, which supports EBS striping, which will help you work around any performance issues you run into when your database starts to grow with demand. It supports the MySQL EBS templates by default support master-slave, which allows you to do fast failovers. The RightScale array allows you to scale based on traffic and load. And then the HA proxy-based front-end servers allow you to both balance load and scale. And you can also use Amazon Elastic Load Balancing to scale. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Sanket. Daryl, question for you. The customer says we currently use a private cloud solution as our data includes financial information. What are the data security issues around both RightScale and open cloud solutions such as Amazon Web Services?
Okay, that could probably be a pretty long answer, but let me try to do it pretty quickly. So it's great using private cloud. That keeps pretty much everything behind the firewall. What are some of the data security issues around opening that up to RightScale? So the first is we will store your credentials in our system, and we encrypt them 5 different ways, store the secrets in very special places, and you can read a lot about that on our website on how we store your credentials. And then also, our whole dashboard is designed to try to make it so that you don't expose anything that you want to your IT. So for example, we have a concept of credential that you can add as an input where you can store passwords or any information like that, and only the admin will be able to see it, but the other people will be able to use it to start services. And we also allow you to store your own SSH keys rather than using any other cloud SSH keys, so that they can be yanked at the drop of a hat from all the instances under management. So security is paramount for us, and I just wanted to reiterate that.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Daryl. Thanks, Chris, and thanks, Sanket. We're just past the hour right now, so we're going to thank you for your time and call it quits. Wanted to let you know, though, that this webinar has been recorded. After we close this out, it'll just compress. We'll put it up on the website later this afternoon. You can watch it again for old time's sake. Share it with your friends if you'd like. Otherwise, we will keep the Q&A line open with Chris answering your questions as long as you have them. Otherwise, thank you so much for your time.